Today we're talking about the 3 keys to making lasting change in your life. I can't believe that I have made it here early, 1 minute early today. I'm not even 1 minute later than the scheduled time, and I'm just going to be sharing with you what we will cover today, because I know that a few of you do like to join us here live every week, and every week I like to show up to you for you to be sharing the most powerful transformation tools that you can use in your life now. Any change that you want really is your responsibility, and the challenge that comes with that is that we don't like the feeling of change. We don't like what change might look like for us while it's in its process of happening. We don't like uncertainty. We find it really hard to feel like we're getting anywhere or we're winning, and we like winning because we're humans. And what I'm going to be sharing with you in the 3 keys to making change is we're going to talk about resistance and what resistance is. We're going to be talking about why resistance is a really important part of making change, because you can't bring things into form, into physicality without it. And we're also going to be talking about this idea of the whole of yourself being on the change journey, and how to navigate the good and the bad aspects of who you are. We all have parts of ourselves that we like and that we love everybody to be able to see and connect with. And then we have the parts that we're not as proud of. And sometimes that's things like not taking action, are those aspects that we're not as excited about. So, to get us started, I'm going to be talking about change, and what I want you to really anchor into in this conversation is how change is one of the few absolute, definite constants in our lives that we can depend on. We can depend on the fact that change is going to happen. And when you think back over your life, that change has often brought new circumstances, new people, maybe new opportunities, and always there's been an opportunity for growth whenever change has happened. So change is a good thing, and coping with change is actually something that you can learn. It's a set of skills. You can get quite good at coping with change, and I don't mean shutting down, recognizing what's happening to you emotionally or on any level. That's not what being good at change is about. Being good at change is more to do with recognizing and having a toolkit, recognizing what's happening in yourself and in your external world, and having a toolkit that helps you to make decisions, because during change you've usually got to make decisions, and having a plan that makes you feel like you know what your next best step needs to be. Just recently, I was talking with someone who was completely overwhelmed. They're experiencing relationship loss. It's taken a long time for this person to really come to terms with the fact that they're completely overwhelmed. They have too many things going on, and that change is necessary for them to be able to break out of this constant cycle of physical illness, of not getting enough sleep, of constant worry, and all of the things that come with sitting on the fence and not making decisions. All they needed from me was a plan. They needed a step-by-step process to follow, that they'll have to make decisions along the way, but they knew what to do next. So sometimes all you need is a plan, and you feel such a sense of relief. Learning the tools is absolutely key. And to get us started on what those tools and what change, what's normal during change looks like, is the first topic is around resistance. So if you haven't heard of resistance before, It's when you is going to fix a big problem for you. So you want to change your job. This is something that some people experience. A lot of people that work with me might also want to have a new relationship. And whenever you want something new, you might feel, part of you feel really uncomfortable. You know what you want, you know what you don't want, but you don't know how to get there. And you think that feeling really uncomfortable about it means it's not right. And you might think that that is your gut feeling. It's not. Because your gut feeling won't be guiding you away from making change that on paper, practically, like to have a better job or better paying job or more fulfilling job or job closer to home or whatever the solving of the problem is. If it looks good on paper, and you're noticing those feelings of resistance, like it's not possible for me, those are much more simple to solve. They're usually fears and discomfort around something that's very unfamiliar. And some of the things that are unfamiliar can be being the person in your family that's going to speak up about the change you want, or in your relationship. It can be being the person that has to go and tell your boss, who you think has been nice to you, that you're leaving. A lot of people really struggle with speaking up about something that might make another person feel unhappy. They're not going to like what you're going to tell them. That isn't your responsibility. You've got to be open to making changes that could be a bit uncomfortable during the process, but are for the better. If you've been in a situation for a long time that is not helpful for you, and you are in a constant cycle of negative thoughts and that sort of thing, this feeling of resistance and resisting making change is usually grounded in false beliefs, like you thinking you can't make change, like meeting a different person or getting a different job or starting your own business and pursuing your passions, or even making time in a weekly schedule so that you have time for your hobbies or what is creative and fulfilling for you. All of this belief around you thinking that that's not going to be possible for you is not true. It just hasn't been approached in a way that's using the tools that are available to you, a step-by-step process of how to go about it. And feeling like you don't have the right resources will lead to you feeling really overwhelmed because you think you have to do everything and you don't really understand how basic and step-by-step it is, and that it's okay to be a beginner at the new thing you're trying, or that there's more help available for you than you might recognize. And why resistance is really important to be aware of is because everybody has it, everybody. So the people who you see as winners and your heroes, they have it as well, but they know what to do with it. They're very determined, just like you, but they're determined in the battle part of it, not just determined about the outcome. They're happy to put in the action steps. Well, they're probably not happy about it, but they recognize that that consistency in their action steps is part of what the struggle is. So when you're trying to think about how to get out of your situation, being ready to get into the mud and go through the journey and the battle, that's part of where that resistance is, because we can go into a state of feeling frozen, or we can just run from it completely and forget that we ever had that dream. You can just put it off. Putting it off and procrastinating is really linked in with this. And I want you to know why. This is like our second part of today. Why resistance is so key to the change that you want. Let's say you're trying to do something creative, all right? Let's imagine for a moment that you are an artist and you want to bring an idea out of your head into reality. This is such a good metaphor for how change works. So the artist has to think about what materials they're going to need, so what resources they're going to need, and be ready to get it wrong a few times. It's not going to look exactly like they want it to, but they're going to play with it. Might get a bit frustrated, but they're going to recognize what that feeling is about, is because it's not there yet, and they're just going to try again. And for you, this idea of resistance, that is the part of the battle that is the struggle. It's the being in the mud. It's the getting dirty, rolling up your sleeves, getting exhausted, because even having therapeutic work like talking therapy or having sessions with me is quite emotionally tiring. Like, you do feel a little bit tired after it quite often. Depends on what the work is, obviously. But you managing change can be very, very tiring, and that's okay. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about you. And while you're navigating change, this letting go of self-judgment is really, really important. It's really valuable for you to be okay with getting tired, feeling a bit confused, feeling a bit frightened about change, and looking for support, asking for support, all of those types of things. Absolutely. That's what the journey is. And so going back to the artist metaphor, an artist, let's say a sculptor or a painter, can't bring that into form without the struggle. They cannot carve out the new piece from the original raw material or the old material. They can't make the new thing without that struggle. It's not going to happen. And you can't get from here to where you want to be over there without a journey. This idea that some people hold, which is that somehow it's all just going to get fixed, like, not maybe they might not think it's going to be overnight, but just that the person in their life that bothers them is just going to leave. Let me tell you, they're not going to leave while you keep letting that situation happen. You keep allowing it into your life. The job is not going to disappear. Well, unfortunately, actually, that one might. It's a little bit different. Those situations that you have total control over and you're leaving yourself in, it can kind of end up blowing up in some way that's unpleasant. And that's even more reason to be ready to lean into this resistance that you're experiencing and ask yourself, why am I resisting the change I want? What is it that I have created as a story in my head about why I can't have the thing that I want? That is such a key question. What is this story that I've created, and why do I think I can't have it? Why? Is it because I've not done it before? That's a really big one. That's really common. You've done other hard things, so you can do this too. And you're going to get better and better along the way. Resistance is absolutely key for you to be ready to lean into and to create new stories in your mind, reminding yourself that you are strong enough and that you've done hard things before. There are lots of tools I teach that include this equipping yourself, almost like you're being the kind and loving parent to yourself that you need at this time. You know, you might feel like you need a bit of reassurance and support. There are tools that enable you to do that for yourself so that you become better equipped to take those steps that are, you know, more consistent and more determined towards this journey that you're ready to take. Because remember what I said at the beginning around change being the only constant, and it's the only path to get you from here over to there, whatever that might look like for you. And I just want to finish by saying, if you notice that you've got a lot of unhelpful thoughts around this change, So let's say you wanted to, some people go through phases where they give up alcohol, or they try to quit smoking or eat in a different way that's healthier for them. And they ask people who have not been drinkers or smokers or whatever for years, they ask them how they did it. Now think about where you are right now with this struggle, and how someone that's not been in the struggle for 5 or 10 years feels. They're almost not going to be able to understand what you're grappling with on a daily basis. It's too big a leap. And thinking that because of that big leap, it just confirms that you won't be able to get there. That's not right. You just need to be looking for resources that are specific for you and where you're at. So you kind of need to talk to someone that is 1 month ahead of you in their case of addiction, or 1 year ahead of you. And there's many, there's actually nobody that I really treat in my practice that I haven't walked that path that they've walked. It just works out that way, that these types of life transformation around career and parenting and marriage and relationships, and coping with relationships ending, and other types of loss, and around my own journey with suicide loss, and it's not the only loss I've experienced. All of this comes together to really give us so many wonderful tools. And I want you to embrace change. Let yourself know that it's okay for you to experience the change journey, and all of that resistance is absolutely key. And to acknowledge that when you are wanting to change or break an addiction or bring in a new habit, those feelings within you of unworthiness and almost being in a habit of looking at people that are further ahead of you as confirmation that you can't do it, it's not true. And just accepting those feelings within yourself of unhelpful thoughts that come up, and that those critical thoughts, we call them the inner critic, all of that comes up, it is a part of you that exists within you, and it's okay that that's there. It doesn't make you the most negative person or someone that's never going to get to the other side of where you want to go. It's part of you, and that's okay to have those aspects of you. If you found this interesting, please let me know your comments or questions below, and I will share a link to some resources that are for you, that you can just get started with right away. And I love having you here on this journey with us every week. Make sure you really ask yourself those questions about why you want the change, and what type of resistance you might be walking away from instead of leaning into. And have a great week. I see you and I appreciate you. Bye for now.